So before I get into preaching, I want to start at the very basics because I don't know where people are at. So I want to start at the very beginning. What are you? What are you? Ask yourself, what am I? Am I this body? If you look in the mirror and you see your face and your hands, is this what I am? If I cut off your hand, what happens to you? To you as the being, the you might say your name or your character or the being to you. Does it change if I cut off your hand? You're still you, aren't you? But what you are remains the same. It's not like I've cut off part of your personality now or your character now or anything. There's a part in you that stays 100% full even though I cut this arm off. So are we our bodies? If we look in the mirror and we see how our skin starts to wrinkle up and we start to become ugly, and for those of you who are older, you might notice, you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I'm actually getting old. Like, I'm not so pretty anymore. Something inside of you didn't age at all. It's the same looking from the inside out, but it's different from the outside looking in. Something inside of you didn't age. Something inside of you is still young or old for that matter. It just is. It just is present always, but it doesn't necessarily age. Your character, your being doesn't age. It might be more wise. You might be more patient, but something inside of you, it doesn't really age. That's why when we get older, we can sometimes be like, wow, I'm shocked. Like, look how old I look. Or if you're 80 years old or whatever. So, are you your body? No, you're not your body. But you have a body, right? When I refer to a person, we say this person, this includes the body. But there's more to you that makes you you. So we've established you have this body, but you also have something which is what I call the intellect or the mind. You have an intelligence, you have an incredible computer in here with computing power with which you can rationalize and think and logically deduct and plan and scheme, whether good or bad. This is your mind, your intellect. And then there's something more, which is what essentially differentiates you from an animal or a dog, and that is your spirit, your ability to have compassion and empathy, your ability to feel love very deeply, and this inner knowing of I shouldn't hit somebody. This is not an intellectual thing. You know deeply you shouldn't hit somebody. You have a conviction if you're about to do what is wrong, and you are clearly able to tell what is right and what is wrong in certain situations. You're not blind to quote unquote spiritual laws or what this part in you says. And this is why, for example, people won't be angry at an animal for doing what is morally wrong, because the animal doesn't have this. The animal doesn't have the knowledge of good and evil. It doesn't know whether something is good or bad. It's just intellect and body. Body, which gives it instincts, and intellect, which can reason and scheme, although a more limited intellect compared to us. And so you won't be mad at the bull for just jumping on a female and starting to hump her. But on a human, oh, that's a whole different thing. Why? Knowledge of good and evil. Right? This is the third part. And this is what I call the spirit. This is also what I call the real you, the spiritual being which you are. Because you are not this body. We've established this. You can cut everything off. You still remain the same until you leave. You are the spiritual being inside of the physical vessel. So you're not a physical being having a spiritual experience. You're a spiritual being which temporarily has this physical experience, also a spiritual experience, because these things intermingle, right? The same way inside of you is the intermingling between the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. So this is what you are. You're comprised of a trinity. Three things, one being. Body, mind, spirit. Or body, mind, soul. Or flesh, intellect, soul. Whatever you want to call it. And here's already where we can see that this is where the inner dichotomy originates from. And I want to illustrate this to you with some examples. And for some of you who've been on my channel, you've heard this before, but this is for those who maybe haven't heard it before. Because this is going to help you realize where the devil is or what the devil is, and that he's not outside of you. Let's use this example for a man. And this might apply to a woman too. I think a woman is going to be able to understand it as well. Let's say you're a man though, and you have a girlfriend, you have a commitment, and you want to stay loyal, you love them very much, and you're married, and this is your partner, and then you go to work, and then this perfect woman comes along, and she has all the physical attributes you want in a woman. She is literally perfect physically, and she says right now, you can do whatever you want with me. Every single kink, every single filthy desire, do it all. There's nobody around, there's no cameras. She's gonna leave the country tomorrow. Nobody will ever know. Your body's immediate reaction is, wow, yes, I feel attracted to the woman. Now, depending on how spiritual you are, because this is what spirituality means, it takes you longer to make the decision to just be like, oh, hell no, and go away. Maybe this will just be a split second because you've been walking with God and you already know, you already see, oh, hell no, get the hell away from me. I love my wife. But maybe you're not quite there yet. Maybe you're not that strong. And depending on state, if it's morning or evening, it can change. And maybe there's like a few seconds of temptation and you're like, what if I just do it? But oh, I love my partner, but oh my God, she's sexy. And this is the inner dichotomy. You see, you want two different things. Your body on one hand says, I want this. And then your spirit comes in and says, no, I don't want this. I want to do something else. Why are you not aligned with yourself? How is there an inner dichotomy in your being if you're one? Because you aren't one. Because the body isn't you. You're inhabiting it. It isn't part of you. It is part of you temporarily, but it isn't what you are. Hence, the conflicting desire. And biblically, this is what we call the flesh versus the spirit, the good versus the bad. And now, your mind comes into play. And your mind might say, well, nobody's going to know. I can just do it. I can go home to my wife or home to my husband. Although, this, it's a bad example for women, but I think women will be able to get it too. I can just have sex with this woman, go home to my wife. There's no cameras, there's nobody around. She's going to leave the town tomorrow and go to another country and never ever come back. Logically, rationally, physically, it won't change anything. My wife won't know. I won't tell her. I'll just do it, feel good, and then boom, go home. That's what your mind says. Your mind, which reasons and is part of the physical realm. It's the mental faculty which you can use to process and calculate and logically deduct the physical and the rational. But then there's another part, which is the spirit comes in as well. And spirit says, but man, I know I shouldn't do this. It isn't right. I have a commitment. I need to follow that commitment. This is the inner dichotomy, flesh versus spirit. And the walk with God is nothing else but choosing to embody or choosing to live out whichever thing the spirit says whenever it is being revealed to you. This can be these can be small things. This can be you're gossiping, and then all of a sudden something inside you like, don't talk bad about them when they're not here. It's not right. And you're like, oh shit, but I really just want to vent and get it off my chest. The inner dichotomy. Following God is nothing else but doing what is right, which you know you should do, what the spirit, this inner thing tells you should be doing. And it's not like only Christians have this. Everybody has this because we're all made in the image of God. If we were true atheists and we did not have this, all we were was animals with an intellect. You could not be angry at somebody for raping a woman. You could not be angry at somebody for inflicting violence and stealing. That's all he knows. There is no moral reasoning there. It's just, I have desires and I have a mind to scheme. There's no spirit which stops me from just jumping on a woman. So we all have the Spirit of God, but the thing is, we have it to varying degrees. And why do we have it to varying degrees? Because we as people choose to feed one side or the other. You have, this life is a test. This life is separating the wheat from the chaff. You have good and you have bad. You're in front of two crossroads spiritually right now in your life. And you can either choose the good or you can choose the bad. And you will choose the good or the bad. Earlier or later, it's all going to crystallize into one of those two. And this is the fundamental task that you're confronted with every single day. You do what is right or you do what is easy. And here's some more patterns. What is easy is good in the now. Because your body, all your body cares about is pleasure, feeling good right now, doing what spikes your dopamine. Because, well, quite simply, your body is gonna die. It doesn't live forever. So if it's gonna die, it's gonna say, I want as much pleasure as I possibly can. I wanna fuck as much, eat as much, drink as much, smoke as much. I just wanna feel as good as I possibly can before I disintegrate into nothingness. Whereas the spirit, it lives for eternity. Whenever you choose to embody the spirit, you will suffer in the moment because you will go against the flesh. You will do what is good in the long term. This could be little things. We can say, for example, cheating on your diet. Right there. Same play. Okay, I could do it, but I know I shouldn't. Now I have the inner dichotomy. What do I choose? What do I feed? Right? Drinking soda, going to the gym. And what we notice is that if we indulge in something like drinking soda, a lot of the times what ends up happening is we continue to drink soda. We're just soda drinkers now. Or we're just people with bad diets. Or we're just people with good diets. Or we're just people that go to the gym. You see, these things start off as one thing, but they continue, they repeat. Because whenever you choose what you know you shouldn't choose, you're feeding something inside of you. And this side gets stronger, the bad and the good. I'm sure you've heard this analogy, the bad wolf against the good wolf. Whenever you choose to feed the bad wolf gets stronger. And if a wolf gets really strong, you have more desires. And you find yourself in negative habits where you live for the now, you do what is wrong, you damage your own body, and you have no long lasting fruits. And if you start to feed the good wolf and you starve the flesh, that's when you'll start to have habits that require short-term sacrifice, short-term suffering, but long-term fruits and eternal goodness. Because working out is a representation of your life. You suffer now, but then you'll have eternally a healthy and good and strong body forever. You just keep doing the habit, which is automated now. Or you drink soda, which is going to destroy you slowly but surely. It's going to give you cancer and everything that you don't want. So this is a fundamental task that we're faced with. And this is what we are called to do as followers of Christ, is choose the good as much as we possibly can. This is what you should define your walk with God by. How good are you? How much good can you do? How strong is your spirit, or how strong is your flesh? And if your flesh is very strong and you find yourself in bad habits and negative loops, you need to pray and you need to fast. Why do we fast? Not because it's some magical tool, no, but because it's hard. It starves that demon or that bad side inside of you. It starves it. It makes it go smaller so that all of a sudden all the other little things, they become easier. Because remember, once you're in the loop, you're in the loop. It's automatic. So you should define your character or your being by the good you do. But here's the thing. You are called to always do good, and you're called to always do right, and you're called to come after perfection, which is in Christ. But the problem is that no matter how hard you try, you can never fully do it. And you should make sure that you don't follow into self-righteousness, or you exalt yourself above others because you are more righteous, quote unquote. Because again, what is exaltation? It is doing what is easy in the now. It's what the flesh wants. Immediate benefit. Oh, I'm better. And now I exalt myself because I'm more righteous. This is how you'll fall into the religious deception. This is what the Pharisees were. They puffed themselves up. They exalted themselves. They were looked at as the most religious people, the most righteous people, but they were the ones who crucified Christ. So it's important that we do not become identified with it, because the moment you identify with it, that's again something for the flesh. Because look what Jesus did. He came as a servant. He came to humble himself. So in the flesh, it's like, yeah, I'm righteous. I'm really righteous. I'm a righteous man of God. But in the spirit, it's like, no, 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 I'm nothing. I fall like anybody else. I bleed like anybody else. I am nothing. And by the grace of God, I can continue to be nothing so that I can continue to do good. Because the moment I become something, that's when I'm going to fall. The moment I'm going to become whatever it is that I'm imagining to be, that's what's going to lead to my downfall, because it's not of the spirit. Make this the center most important thing of your life. But then once you get better at it, do not be identified with it, and do not allow the flesh to steal what is of the spirit, because it's not you that's doing it. It's the grace of God that is allowing you to embark on a better path. But here's the thing. You do not resent people who don't choose the good, because this is part of it. You now realize what is good and what is bad, and you can clearly see it from within. But other people, they can't see it, and they choose what is bad, and it causes suffering to others and to themselves. And you need to make sure that you do not start to hate them. But this is not something that you can just stop doing. The fact that you hate them is the result of your lack of wisdom. Because here's the thing, it's not that you just suffer this whole life because now you follow God and you're only going to be happy once you're in eternity. It starts the moment you choose to do good. Everything that is not good is temporal. It's going to pass away. The only thing that truly lasts and that can truly fulfill you are the things that are good and just, righteous. These things are eternal. And so this is why a hedonistic lifestyle will never truly fulfill you. And the moment you start to live for what is good and you start to quote unquote start building your house in heaven or in the spiritual realm, which we cannot see physically, our minds cannot understand, our bodies can't perceive it. Once you start build fortune there, you will have an inner peace. And this starts on earth. This doesn't start after this is over. This starts the very moment you choose to make this decision. Because the kingdom of heaven is within. The moment you start to embark on this journey and walk this path, you will be blessed. You will have it better following the path of God. But the path of God is not a quick shortcut. The path of God is going to take some patience. It's going to take some effort, some sacrifice, some suffering. And you will be tested. And God will test your patience. And He will tempt you. But if you endure, if you persist, you will be blessed. And you will be blessed with greater fruits, with lasting fruits, with good and eternal fruits that start on earth. It's better for you to follow God. This is wisdom. Wisdom is seeing it is better for me not to cheat, even though my body and my intellect, they say otherwise. Wisdom is seeing in the spiritual realm. We walk by faith and not by sight. We see with our real eyes, the spiritual eyes. We can discern truth and what is good, and we follow it because we have wisdom and we're strong in the spirit through Christ, because it's not us, it's all of Christ. Right? Again, stay humble. Do not exalt yourself. Your flesh wants immediate exaltation. Your spirit is, I'm patient. I'm not all that. You see what I'm getting to? The second thing is the hatred towards people is a result of your lack of wisdom, your inability to see that it is bad for them and you're not missing out. When you lack wisdom, you start to think, oh, I'm missing out. Because you think in your flesh, you're not spiritual. You don't have the wisdom to see. You don't have the spiritual eyes. You're not as aligned yet. So you start to think you're missing out because you're not sleeping around and taking drugs and doing all of these things. And so what starts to happen is you start to resent people because they're doing what you want to do, but now you've chosen to follow God and now you suffer. But why don't you suffer? This anger starts to come up, this resentment. It's because you don't understand that what they're doing is bad for them and self-destructive, and what you're doing is good for you, but not afterwards. It starts the very moment you choose to do good, and you will reap the fruits in this life. Imagine it like this. If you have a house, you have a brick house, and the more bricks you have, the better you feel. But you can eat the bricks, and if you eat the bricks, they're gonna feel so good. It feels good to eat the bricks. Now you can start to build the house, and the bigger the house, the better your true inner fulfillment is. So if I have a gigantic house, I'm so fulfilled I don't even need to eat the bricks because I have a house, right? But if I'm really depressed, I need to eat every brick that I can because I don't even have a house. And this is how you need to see it. Other people, they're eating the bricks. And if your house isn't yet built because you're still in that phase of where your patience is tested and you're tempted and you have to endure and you have to suffer because you haven't been doing what is good and righteous for years on end to the point where you can actually have built already a big foundation or a walls or a house, then you will sit there and you will have the same house as them. But they're indulging, they're eating the bricks and they're enjoying it, and you're like, I want to eat them. But again, lack of wisdom, because their house is going to fall. Yours is building up. So don't be angry towards them. Your hatred, your resentment for the people that go against God is not because it's justified. It's because you lack wisdom, because you're in flesh. Because in flesh, you're going to lose. You're going to have less pleasure, less sex, less drugs. And if you have wisdom, you can see clearly. Yeah, I know it feels good to eat the brick, but look at your house. It's falling down. And so, because we can already live in spirit, and the spirit is within us and talks to us through our conscience and through telling us what is good and what is bad, the kingdom of heaven starts now. Because now you start to build the house by doing what is good. You see? And so the fruits of your house building, you will experience them now because you experience the Spirit now. Heaven starts the moment you decide to follow God. And the fruits, they come after a while, after you start to build the layers, and all of a sudden, whoa, I feel more secure now. I feel more protected. I have a house now. Inner fulfillment. Now that I have the house, I don't really need to eat all the bricks anymore. Like, I already have a house. I might as well just build another house, make an even bigger house, because I'm good. You understand? Again, it repeats. Once the house is built, it's easier to build the second house. Once one good habit is built, it's easier to build the second good habit. And same thing on the nihilistic side, on the side of indulgence. That's why these two wolves, good and bad, this is what this life is about. And it's all going to crystallize into one of the two. And if you want to starve the bad, you fast, you pray, you do what you don't want to do, and you start to plant seeds, put in effort to plant seeds. And down the line, you're going to have all these fruits, and they will have teared down their houses. But in that process, you need to make sure that you don't become self-righteous, that you do not become self-identified and puff yourself up because I'm building the house while y'all are destroying yourselves, or send any negative thing to them. Because it should be empathy, it should be love. Oh my God, you're destroying yourself. Please stop it. I'm here. I want to help you. Please, I want to open your eyes. I don't want to shit on you because you're destroying yourself. This is my flesh, which is angry that I don't get to do the pleasures because I lack wisdom. Don't have that hatred, and don't be self-identified with your righteousness. Because there's only one that is good. No one is good but God. And look what God does when he comes. He humbles himself. He becomes a servant. So follow in his footsteps and start to build the house. Do what is good and start to get aligned and pray so you can see and don't feel the need to give hate anymore, but compassion and empathy. Fundamentally, this is what life is about. This is the test of life. This is it. That's it. But it's hard, it's hard. It's easy to say, but it's hard to live.